let's go to the phone lines and our guest line. And we're going to bring on Scott Flansburg. He is the owner of the Herkimer Originals. We've chatted with Scott a few times on Bridge Street. Scott, it's great to have you on today. How are you?
Very good. Thank you guys so much for having me.
All right, so Scott, let's start with this TBT. Why, I guess, how did you end up with a team? Why did you want to field a team in the TBT?
It just fell together. I had reached out to them last year, once the Originals were established, and I knew that our team maybe wasn't big enough to compete at that level, but I kept in contact with the TBT staff, Luke Rubin and folks. And when the Boeheim's Army dropped out, they called us and asked if we could throw a team together, and we had just hosted the All-Star game for our league, the American Basketball Association. So I just asked a bunch of the All-Stars to be on the Originals for this specific tournament.
Can you give us an idea of who's on the roster? I know Samir Torrance is on the roster, and SU basketball fans and local fans know him from being a local product. Can you give us an idea of who else is on the roster?
Yeah, Jeremiah Sparks, a local guy. Josh Gregory is from the Mohawk Valley. He's 6'8", great shooter. Javon McCree is from Buffalo. He's the all-time leading scorer from Buffalo. Capri Alston from Chicago. All these guys played on the All-Star game from Providence, Rhode Island to Chicago. That's our region. And so it's just really a dream come true to get so much talent. And these guys all play together all year long. They're all in the same league. So, there's 100 teams in the country, so we all know each other pretty well. So they should have some good chemistry.
Yeah, you mentioned Jeremiah Sparks. Went to Jordan Elbridge, was a star there, and SUNY Oswego. And so, as you said, you've got some local flavor. And what does it mean for you guys to be kind of carrying the banner for Central New York, given the fact that there is no Boeheim's Army, as you mentioned earlier?
It's a dream come true because we're called the Herkimer Originals because we found evidence that proves that basketball was actually invented in Herkimer, New York, a year before Springfield and Naismith. And so we put together a group called the Herkimer 9 Foundation, and over the past 4 years have done all this research and published a book. And now we just got the kid. His name's Lambert Will from 1890. He just went into the New York State Basketball Hall of Fame, listed as the inventor of basketball. And now he's on the ballot for Springfield in December. So we're doing everything we can to get promotion and PR for this kid, Lambert Will from the Herkimer YMCA from 1890. And the TBT is just a dream come true. Lambert Will's name is on the front of our jersey.
So I was trying to tell Paulie about this. You and I have talked several times before, and you've kind of laid out, the evidence that you found, and you mentioned Lambert there. Can you kind of lay it out for our listeners who have not heard this story, and for my co-host here, Paulie, that some of the evidence that exists that that Herkimer was actually the birthplace of basketball?
Paulie, this is a crazy story. I know it's 130 years plus, but there's two brothers named George Fossey and Daryl Fossey, and they rewrote the history of ice hockey, and it's called Black Ice. And I got a hold of them, and they were working on the research about Herkimer years ago, and they were threatened by the Naismith family to stop working on this book. And so with the evidence we had found and what they had collected, they ended up publishing a book, and we called it Nays Myth. And it's Basketball's Stolen Legacy. And two things happen in this book. One, we list all the evidence we found to prove that Herkimer had a game in 1891, way before Springfield, and everything around that. And the other half of the book is all the things that Springfield and the Naismith family has done to perpetuate this myth for 130 years.
This is the new memory lane.
Go ahead, Paul.
I was just like, what is the proof? Like, how did you find this?
There's a book that was published in 1952 called, it was written by a guy named Frank J. Baslow, I Grew Up with Basketball. And it listed off the players, the dates, everything. And I was born in Herkimer, and when COVID hit, I stopped doing my human calculator stuff at schools and decided to prove this thing wrong, and I just kept finding more evidence to prove it true, to the point where we had more evidence for our game in Herkimer a year earlier than Springfield, and more evidence than they have for their first game.
It's a fascinating story. It seems like it's picking up more and more steam based on the work that you've done over the course of the last 4 years. Go ahead, Paul.
I do have one question. It's the Naismith story is it was a peach basket. What did you have information like that? What they used and whatnot in the game?
Great question. If you read the Naismith biography, it says that he came up with basketball in a dream for a homework assignment the next day. But what really happened was Lambert Will was in his cellar in Herkimer, and his mom asked him to sort cabbage, and one soft cabbage in one basket, hard cabbage in another, and he was just tossing cabbage. And he was the sports director at the Herkimer YMCA, and in front of the YMCA is a market, and there was a basket and some cabbage. So him and his buddies were doing the same game, throwing cabbage in this basket. And the store owner gave a prize to the winner who made the most. And they went upstairs into the YMCA and started turning it into a game. They worked on it for 2 months, and we have the names of all the guys that did it. And then they played the first game on February 7th, 1891. And we have the physical evidence to prove it.
Scott, you just alluded to the fact that you are known as the human calculator, and you said that kind of went on hold when you were, when we were all dealing with COVID. Can you give my co-host here a taste of what you can do as the human calculator?
Thank you, Steve. Yeah, I've been in the Guinness Book of World Records for over the last 20 years as the fastest human calculator. I can count by a number as fast as you can do it in a calculator. So if I ask you to punch in 12 plus 12 on a calculator, if you just keep hitting equals, it'll keep adding it like 24, 36, 48, 60, except I can do that with any number. So if one of you guys has a calculator, an iPhone calculator, just clear it and punch in a random 2-digit number. Make it a big, tough one. Don't even tell me what it is yet. Just punch it in the calculator.
How many can I do? How many digits can I do?
We're starting with a 2-digit number, and you'll see what happens. So punch in the top 2-digit number, then hit plus, then hit the same 2-digit number again, and hit equals. And now I'm going to start counting by that number, and all you have to do is hit equals each time I say the next answer and try to keep up with me. So whenever you're ready, tell me the starting number, the first 2-digit number you picked.
62.
124, 186, 248, 310, 372, 434, 496, 558, 620, 682, 744, 806, 868, 930, 992, 1054, 1116, 1178, 1240. I can just count by that number as fast as I can talk.
That is amazing. That is amazing.
For fun, if you'll share your birthday with me, I'm also a human calendar. So if you tell me the month, day, and the year, I can figure out what day of the week it was on.
June 15th, 1972.
That was on a Thursday.
And I was February 27th, 1976.
Oh, a leap year. That was on a Friday because it was a leap year.
You're right. And we know, Paulie, I was due on Leap Day.
Yes.
I've told that to Paulie before.
Fascinating.
He's not impressed
funny.
by that. Scott, this is we love having you on. Any final thoughts here about the TBT or about your team? And you guys are playing the UConn alumni squad, right, in the first game?
Yeah, we got paired up. We're 8, they're 1. It's a dream come true. We're getting to play the most successful college basketball program in the country. They're alumni. It's a great way to introduce Lambert Will and the Herkimer Originals. I hope people will follow us on social media. We're at Herkimer OGs. And for all the folks in Boeheim's Army, we hope you'll follow us and help us put together a better team for next year.
Where and when is the game where people can catch you in that game with UConn?
Tomorrow night, Saturday night, 6 p.m. It's free to watch on the TBT website.
All right, we're looking forward to it. Scott, best of luck, continued success with everything you've got going on. We appreciate you spending about 15 minutes with us today. Thanks so much.
Hey, thanks, guys. We have a billboard on the Thruway. If people want to check it out, it claims Herkimer is the birthplace of basketball. It's right along the New York State Thruway. So thank you all for having me, and hopefully we have some good news for you next week.
All right, sounds good. Scott Flansburg, owner of the Herkimer Originals, joining us on the program. We've got Emmanuel Berbari from the Yankees at 1:30. Today's business coming up next on ESPN Radio.